This is a workflow for AI video generation for unlimited length videos using only generous limit per day solutions. So basically this is for free. It is using solutions that aren't completely free. They're limited use per day with options to buy more usage for a cost. But these solutions do provide a generous amount of limited use per day that if you're just making a short film as a hobby, they're good enough. If you're looking for something more professional, this is probably not the right solution because there's probably solutions that will do a much better job. This solution or this workflow focuses on something that is good enough and can be done using, again, limited per day solutions, basically meaning no cost. Okay, so let's dive in. So one of the problems with AI video generation is consistent characters. A lot of solutions, especially those that are text-based, allow you to provide a description of a character, but then when you're making a successive clip, unless you've really described that character to a lot of detail, you're likely to get a slightly different looking character. A lot of AI solutions for this suggest, describing the character in great detail and then using the same seed to basically get the AI thinking along the same lines, but it's hit or miss. So I found a solution called Whisk, which aims to somewhat overcome this. In the Whisk solution, you can put in multiple characters, either from a text description or uploading images. You can do the same thing for a scene, and you can do the same thing for a style. And then you basically just select, using a toggle, which ones you want to apply, and then you can generate images or video from that. It's not perfect, but I've had pretty good success with it, so that is the initial part of my workflow. Whisk does allow you to generate both images and video, but the image generation is free, whereas the video generation, you get 10 of those for free. After that, you've got to buy a subscription to get more. And unfortunately, the video aspect of it does not reset daily. So I'm going to be using the Whisk solution for a image only, and then we're going to feed that image as like a starting image into a video generator to generate the actual video. So let's have a look at Whisk. So we can get to Whisk AI just by doing a search for Whisk. And what you want to do is you want to find the one that is the labs Google/FX. Once we hit that, we'll be taken into the Whisk tool. You do want to log in so that all of your hard work is recorded for you. I'm logging in with the Google account. I don't know if there's other accounts that you can log in with, but Google account is what I'm using. If you've already done some projects in your Whisk environment, you can go to My Library and then select to reopen one of the projects you're working on, or you can just enter the tool and start working away. So we can see here on the left-hand side, we've got a subject section, basically all the characters, a scene section, and a style section. We can add one or more of any of these, and you can see that each one of them allows you to add either using a text prompt or a uploaded image. Normally you would make entries for all the characters in potentially all of your scenes. You'd make entries for your scenes. You'd most likely define only one style for your project, but theoretically you could do different styles if you have, let's say a movie that has dark aspects of it and light aspects of it, then you might have like different lighting or something like that. So you can define that here in the styles. And then the idea is that once you do that, you just checkbox the selections that you want, and then provide a prompt to generate the corresponding image or the video. Now, the free version, I don't know if you get more with the paid version or not, but the free version allows you to make 3 selections, excluding style. So that basically means like either 2 characters and a scene, or 3 characters and a described scene. But I have found ways around that. One way is I take, let's say, 2 characters in a scene, I generate that image, then I take 2 other characters in a scene, generate that image, and then combine them in post-production. Or the other way that I've found that sometimes works is I'll take 2 characters and put them into a scene. Once I've generated that scene, I feed that back in as a new scene. So basically those characters kind of become as background part of the scene. And I add, let's say, 2 more characters. So that way, when I now generate a new image, it'll have the 2 new characters plus the scene, which already has the other characters in it. And theoretically, I can get more than 2 characters into a scene that way. All right, so let's have a look. I'm going to upload an image, and I'm going to select a character here. And we can see that it analyzes the picture and basically generates a detailed description of what that character looks like. So I could actually right now, once it's uploaded, I can go in here, and here is the actual description that it generated for this character. And if I want to change things, I can actually edit that description, tell it what I've changed here, submit that, and it will update these the characters accordingly. So I've got 1 character here so far. Let's go for the scene. I'm going to go a Okay, let's just generate a medieval banquet hall. Now again, the idea here is this scene doesn't actually have any of the characters in it. The characters are separate so that we can use this scene for any combination of these characters. And then here I can also prompt for a style. So now currently I've only got 1 subject, 1 scene, and 1 style. But again, you would, for your short film, you would put all your characters in here, all your scenes, and that way when you're generating a image, you can just toggle the ones that you want and provide a prompt here of how they interact. So right now we've got this character, we've got this scene, but there's no indication of how these interact, right? So I can do something like this. The green goblin girl is dancing on top of the banquet tables. Okay. Now I can generate an image. It will by default do 2 images. But if you don't like those images, you just hit it again and generate as many as you want, because again, the image generation doesn't really seem to be limited. Okay, so I've got some options here. We can see that this appearance does look like the character that we had here. We can see that the scene behind her does look somewhat like the scene that we put there. So we're good to go. Now, if there is something that we wanted to slightly edit, we can go and hit the refine here, and that basically takes that as the source image and then allows you to make edits. So change the silver And some of these edits are kind of hit and miss. Some stuff it's able to change very easily. Other stuff it struggles. So, give it a try and to see what happens. Okay, so obviously not even close. Oh, I didn't notice that. It generated the goblin with 3 hands. Okay, well that's probably not a good starting point then. There we go. That's 2 hands here. Yeah. So, anyways, again, you can pick which picture you want. You can use the refine to refine it. I'm not going to go into details on that right now. Or if you don't like any of those, again, just hit the generate again, or you can modify the prompt and hit the generate again. Now, you will also notice that it does have an animate here. So as I said, this can be used to make animations directly, but the image functionality is unlimited free as far as I can tell. Or if it is limited, you can do a ton of images before you hit your limit. But the videos are only 10 videos, and it looks like it's 10 videos per account. That does not reset daily. So once you've used up your 10, it looks like you can't do any more without buying an account. So I'm going to use this purely for generating an image, which is going to be basically the starting frame of our animation. And I'm going to use a different tool to animate it. So let me just grab this one right here. Okay, so now we want to animate. And that we're going to do with Grok AI. Okay, to get to Grok AI, just again do a search for Grok AI. Make sure that you select the grok.com page, and you'll be presented with something like this. You will need to log into an account in order to use these features. Again, I'm logging in with a normal Gmail account. I haven't got any upgraded package. This is just the free package. Now, if you're doing this for the first time, I highly recommend that you click on Settings, go to Behavior, and this looks like it's grayed out. It's actually not. You can toggle it on and off, and I suggest that you disable the automatic video generation. What that does is it looks like when you use the plus here to animate images, when you load it up that way, it seems to generate the video automatically anyways. But if you use copy paste to insert a image in here, it will respect that setting. So it's just a way that typically you don't really want it to start generating video off of your image because you haven't prompted it to tell it what you want to happen in the image. So unless it's really obvious, you probably don't want that, and that's why I just recommend turning it off. But if you leave it on, no, not a big problem. So we want to make sure we're on video over here. We're going to say animate image, and we're going to choose that first frame that we created. So as I said, when you use the animate image option, instead of doing a copy and paste, it's going to automatically kick in the video generation. For some reason, it doesn't seem to be respecting that setting that we set up. But we're probably going to want to prompt it as to what we want happening in the scene. So while it's working away, I'm going to already prepare my prompt here. The little...
Ah, that hits the spot. To the feast! Ha! Another round.
Okay, so that's what it did as a default without any prompting. Over here, if you switch to the video, that's showing the video. If you switch to here, that's going back to the initial image that we provided.
Ah, that hits the spot. To the feet!
So I'm going to now try prompting it a little bit. So the little goblin girl is drunk. She staggers to the edge of the table and then falls off. Okay, again, make sure that that you're here on the video icon, and now we're basically generating a video, again using that starting frame, but now we're prompting what should happen in there. And again, you know, you're going to probably need to prompt it a few times, sometimes even just the same prompt, but getting, you know, to generate it again may help, or you can see what's wrong in the scene and add some clarification into the prompt to clear up, to get exactly what you're looking for. Okay, so again, we've got here some solution here. It's doing what I said, probably not exactly what I was shooting for, so I might, you know, clarify that a little bit, play with it a little bit to generate more videos, but yes, we're getting it following the prompt. So once we like that, we can just hit the download, and that's going to download that clip for us. So that normally gets about a 5-second clip. So when you're prompting for things, you want to keep that time frame in mind. If you prompt for something, you know, really that should take a lot longer, it's going to look hurried, or it won't be able to finish it, or vice versa. If you tell it to do something really, really quickly, you're probably going to get a lot of improvised video around that, because again, it's going to try to generate about a 5-second clip. So now we know how to generate our starting image with a consistent character, right? We can repeat this process using a starting frame from the whisk, so that way our character will remain consistent. But I was saying that you can make unlimited length videos with this, and right here we're getting 5 seconds. That's far from unlimited. So how do we do that? Okay, so once we've gotten our little 5-second video clip, what we need to do is we need to extract the last frame from that clip and feed that back in as our starting clip. So that way we get another 5 seconds where we can prompt again for more stuff. And by repeating that, we can make any length of video that we want. And again, we only need to feed in the last frame of the clip as the new clip if we're trying to do a continuous scene, right? So if after the goblin falls off the table, if we pan to somebody's reaction, you don't need to do the end frame trick as a starting trick because you've now changed the camera perspective. Only if you are doing a continuous shot do you need to feed the last frame into the starting frame of the next 5-second clip. So there's a couple of ways that you can do this. One way is when you are then stitching all these things together in a video editing software of some sort, you can typically get that to generate the last image frame for you. Or you can use a tool like FFmpeg that will extract the last frame for you. So I can show how to do that both ways. I'm using a free video editor to stitch my stuff together. So I can show you how to do it in that. And then I will also post the FFmpeg command if you want to do it from a command line. Yes. Now, before we move on to stitching the multiple videos together, there is a few things I would like to note here. So one is how to do lip syncing. So if a character is saying something, we want to be able to sync up the character speaking with actual audio. So we have a couple of options for this. Grok AI can actually do voices directly. So I can generate videos here and tell it to say things, and it will do that. Now, the problem with that is that you don't really have much control over that voice. It's going to generate some voice. Hopefully, it's going to generate a consistent voice when it sees that character. I don't know how it determines what voice to use because there's no real settings for that. When I was making my short film, it did look that when I kind of used the same character, it was generating the same voice for it. But since that is not really under our control, that may not be the best solution. But let me demonstrate that. If we have our goblin here, we can do something like the all right, so I'm prompting here. The goblin girl takes a sip of her drink and then proclaims, "Drinks for all, be merry." So now when we generate that, oh, I seem to have switched over to image, so it's improvised with a speech bubble. Let me switch to make video. yeah, I think I needed to switch back to video up here. So let me... Oh my God, can't type today. So now this is going to again use still our starting frame that we put in there. That was the girl on the table. And now instead of falling off the table, she's going to proclaim drinks for all, be merry. When you're generating these videos, keep an eyeball on the percentage here. There's cases where it just kind of gets stuck at 0 and doesn't do anything. So in that case, if you just reprompt it or like type the regenerate, it'll kind of check. Now, in some cases, it does 2 different versions and asks you which one you prefer. So if you do, any audio is only going to be heard when you actually point at the at one of the windows. Here.
Drinks for all, be merry!
Here. Let's see what that one is.
Drinks for all, be merry!
Okay, so let's say I prefer this one. And that's what it
Drinks
says.
for all, be merry!
So we can see here that by prompting for some speech, not only does Grok AI generate a voice for the character and has her say that, or him, we can see that the lip movements are now synchronized with that. We can, if the voice that was generated by Grok is sufficient or acceptable, we can keep that and hope that when we generate future scenes with that character, that voice is going to stay the same. Or we can go with another tool for generating more controlled voices, and then we line up that audio with the video that's got the lips already saying that. So as long as we match it up, the 2 will align, and then we have more control over the voice. Now that can get a little bit tricky because the pacing of what Grok generates here and what you might generate in another program might be a little different. So you might have to kind of shift it and adjust it in post-production, but it's not that difficult. When I was making my short video, I was using this solution where I got Grok to generate the lip movements, but then I was using a secondary source to generate the actual voice, and I was able to match it up in most cases pretty easily. Okay, but before we get on with that, as I promised, let's have a look at how to grab that last frame and feed it into the Grok as a new starting frame. Okay, so once you've got your video generated, just hit the download. And now I'm going to show you the software that I use for video editing. Again, you might use a different software, and I'm sure the extraction of the last frame is going to be available there too. But I use VSDC Video Editor. It's a free video editor that has a fair amount of features, but is free. Of course, it won't be able to do all the stuff that a paid software can do, but for a hobbyist like myself, it's good enough. So that's what I'm going to show you here. So in here, I can select. I've started a new project. I can select the video And there we go. There's our video. And here, if I go to the end of my video, step 1 frame back to get the last frame. Under editor, there is a tool here for create snapshot. Now, if you are using VSDC, make sure that your video is selected. Otherwise, the create snapshot is not going to be available. So if I do that, it has now created a snapshot. Make sure you're looking under images, not video. It's created a snapshot of that last frame. And then I can use the export to save that. So now I've grabbed that last frame. So we can see that we started with this frame, the Goblin Girl facing off to the side with whatever she's drinking. And now we've generated a frame where she's looking forward after making her proclamation. So we can now use that in Grok. I can go back to just images and animate image. And now I've got the last frame here. Again, not really respecting the don't start the video generation, so we got to wait for that to go through.
To another successful adventure.
Okay, and generating video. The Goblin Girl tap dances. Let's do that. So basically, I've generated that initial 5-second clip. I've taken the end frame and put it in here as the starting frame. And now I'm basically continuing that continuous shot. So I'm doing the next 5 seconds. And because I've used the last frame as the starting frame here, it should be a smooth transition between those two clips.
Time to dance! Time to dance! Time to dance!
Okay, and if I go now back to my video editor, I'm going to add in that clip. So now, if I go through this, we can see we have a smooth transition.
Drinks for all, be merry! Time to dance!
Yeah, so we can see that the transition between the two clips was smooth. There was no jarring there. One thing that I would recommend is when it generates your 5-second clip, in some cases, in this particular case, for example, we can see that there's kind of the end of the clip doesn't really do much. It's kind of just holding a pose. So in that case, I might want to trim some of that off. Remember to always trim before extracting your last frame, because if I right now, for example, trimmed that and have my next frame, then there could be now a jarring jump. In this case, it wasn't, because she was holding that pose pretty still. But obviously, yes, the more you trim off the end, the higher chance that there's going to be a jarring transition there. So always first trim your clip and then generate your last frame. Okay, and that's basically how you can repeat. You can repeat that process over and over again, basically constructing your full scene or continuous scene from 5-second intervals. So that's how you would do it with a test with a video editor. Again, many different video editors out there, but most likely they will have a similar feature. So if you're using a different video editor, you just need to look up how the end frame can be extracted in that editor. Now, as I said, there's also a different way to get that last frame, and that is to use software like FFmpeg. If you're not familiar with FFmpeg, it's basically a command line tool that can do all kinds of video and image operations. And one of the things it can do is get the last frame. So I've created myself a little batch file here that extracts the last frame of a video. So all I do is, if you create a similar batch file, then I just run last frame and then provide it as the parameter, the video file, and then it will create a file called last_frame PNG, which contains that last frame. So that way, if you do that, you don't really need to go into your video editing software. You can just run from the command line to get that last frame and continue on. Now, it should be noted, as I said earlier, that if that 5-second clip that you created is, a little too long, you want to trim off the end, then you're probably going to be doing that in your video editing software anyways, and then you might as well get the last frame there. But if you're pretty confident that that clip that it generated, you want to use the whole thing, then you can use FFmpeg from the command line to get that last frame if you prefer. It all depends on what you prefer. Some people like command line, some people like GUIs. So that's how we create consistent characters, or images with consistent characters, feed that into Grok AI to make videos from it. That is how we can then extract the last frame and use it as the first frame of the next video to basically create a continuous shot that is more than 5 seconds long. So the last thing on my list there of tools that I'm using was Google Studio AI, and I used that for the voices. Now, I will say that the Google Studio does have a bunch of different voices that you can use, and it does seem to support expressions. So if you say things like yell or scream or say quietly, things like that, it respects that. But I did find a little bit that the choice of voices doesn't have a huge variety. So when I was looking for, a old man type voice or a raging barbarian, it was a little hard to get that. Again, I could get like the expression to act like it was raging, but the voice itself didn't really sound like a barbarian or like an old man. So I'm going to present this solution anyways because it does give some variety, and it does have its limited use again, but it does have a fair amount of generations per day. So it's a viable solution. But if you like other solutions like 11 Labs or some other solutions, go right ahead. Okay, so let's move on to that. So I never remember what the link for the generate speech from Google AI Studio is. When I go to the main page, I can't seem to find a link to that subsection, so I just have recorded the link, and it is aistudio.google.com. I will post it in the description so you can navigate there yourselves. So when you get to the landing page, you will have to log in if you want to use this. Again, I use a free Google account, and that gives you a bunch of generations per day. If you like it, you can get a paid account, but again, the aim here is to try to keep it free. So if you have multiple people speaking to each other, you can use the multi-speaker audio. If you have a single person, you can just switch to the single person. Not much in the way of settings here, but there is a large list of voices. Unfortunately, they don't have any kind of a sample, so you basically have to go and choose one, try it out, and of course, that's all eating up your daily usage. But here, I'll now, once you have selected a voice, however, we've got here the text to be said. So I can do something like this. Drinks for all on me. Be merry. And then up here, we've got kind of the way that we want this read. So right now, it's suggesting a warm and friendly tone. So I can run that and see what that sounds like.
Drink for all on me. Be merry.
Drinks. All right, so we got that. So now there's two ways we can control that voice. We can change the style in which it is said, or there is also a speed here. So for example, if I want him to say that much quicker, I can switch to 1.5, regenerate that.
Drinks for all on me. Be merry.
So it's still using kind of the same style, but it's now faster. So let's try if I switch this back to normal speed. And now I say read aloud in a sad, depressing tone. Let's see what that sounds like.
Drinks for all on me. Be merry.
So yeah, as far as I can tell, there's no real preset set of emotions that you can use. It's kind of hit and miss. Sometimes it does a good job, sometimes not so well, and you have to try some different keywords. But yeah, that's basically how you can use Google AI Studio to generate the speech for your characters. Once you like it, you can just do the download to download it. And then what I was saying earlier is if you made your video with Grok, if you had them say the exact same words that you were generating here, most likely you're going to be able to line it up. I found that, for example, when I generate text here and I use Grok, I need to usually slow down the Grok video a little bit to kind of make the start and end match up. But usually it's not a big deal. With a little bit of fiddling, you can get the newly generated audio from Google AI Studio to match up with the lip syncing from your Grok video. So then I typically just turn off the the audio from the actual video from Grok and then add in my voice this way. So yeah, this is how you can use many of these voices to in your Grok videos without having to resort to the Grok voice. Again, the Grok voice is pretty good, but the two problems with it is you don't really have much control over it, and B, I don't know if it's going to be consistent voice every time you use that character, right? Which, of course, you want a consistent voice for your character. So by using something like Google AI Studio, or again, many other text-to-speech generation software, you can ensure that every time that character speaks, it's going to be in the same voice. Okay, so let's talk about some of the issues with this workflow and why the heck I've got a NVIDIA logo on the bottom there. Okay, so this workflow works fairly well in a lot of cases, but you'll find that you'll need to adjust your scene a little bit to make this work. And the reason for that is Grok AI at the moment only supports a start frame. You can't generate video based on an end frame or a start and an end frame. So what that means, for example, imagine you want your character to walk into a room. So the camera is looking at the room, an empty room, and you want your character to walk in. That's really difficult to do with this workflow because you need to start with the starting frame, which is an empty room, and then you need to have your character walk in, but now that animation is being prompted. So you now are not providing Grok AI with a visual representation of your character. You now would have to completely prompt it for the appearance of the character, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of that whisk component. Now, if you are able to describe your character well enough, you might get away with it. But in a lot of cases, when you do that, you're going to get a character that looks similar, but not exactly, because Grok AI doesn't have a reference for what that character looks like. You might be, in certain cases, able to trick it by asking it to do the reverse. So basically starting with the character in the room and then prompting Grok AI for the character to leave the room. And then in post-production, playing the video backwards. But I've tried this with Grok AI and it doesn't really work well, because in order for that to work, the character has to walk out of the room backwards, and trying to get Grok AI to animate that doesn't really work. I haven't really succeeded. So what that means is scenes like that you need to try to avoid, right? Make the character be already in the room, maybe on the very edge of the frame, and have the character walk in further, so that way Grok AI has that reference of what the character looks like, and can animate it. A similar situation arises when, for example, a character is not facing the camera. So you start with a frame where the character is facing away from the camera, but during the animation, if that character turns towards the camera, Grok AI has no idea what that character's face looks like. So it's going to improvise something based on your text description. And again, if that's not sufficient, you're going to get a character that looks differently. So again, in those cases, you got to try to play with your scene a little bit so that the character doesn't start not looking at the camera and then transitions to looking. The opposite is fine. You can have a character that starts looking at the camera and then looks away. But as soon as you start with the character looking away, there's no reference for the face anymore. So then when the character starts looking at the camera, Grok AI is going to have to improvise. So, it's the workflow isn't perfect. It has limitations, but again, for a free solution, you can usually work around it a bit. Now, there is a way to maybe alleviate some of those cases, and that's with the bonus solution here, based on NVIDIA, obviously here. And this is a standalone solution. This is not online. So all of the previous solutions here have been online. But if you have a CUDA capable graphics card, so basically an NVIDIA chipset graphics card that is decently powerful, you can use this third solution. And when I say decently powerful, I don't mean any like commercial grade. I mean, I've got a RTX 3080 that works for this. Theoretically, the solution should work even with a GTX 1080 type graphics card. So if you've got anything in that ballpark, you should be able to use this bonus solution. If not, well, then too bad. So what this solution involves is there is a Python repository specifically geared for doing video-related generation on graphics cards of that range. So, commercially available graphics cards that you'd might have in your computer, as opposed to server grade graphics cards. So it basically offloads some of the GPU stuff to the CPU, so that way if your graphics card doesn't have enough VRAM, it'll still be able to manage. Obviously, it's going to run a lot slower, so generation will take a lot longer, but it is a viable solution. The repository comes with a bunch of different models. A few of them are 1.3 billion parameter models, so they're kind of ideal for these graphics cards and can get video generated in like 5 minutes or something like that. If you use any of the other models that are like 14 billion parameters, you're going to be looking at a longer, maybe half an hour generation time, or some of the more advanced ones even hours. So not ideal. You wouldn't want that part of your regular workflow, but if there's a specific scene that you just need to get that 5-second transition just right, then these solutions can be used. I will go through it very, very quickly. I do have a video for installing the solution if you're interested, but that's not the scope of this workflow. But I will just quickly demonstrate how this helps alleviate some of the problems that this workflow normally has. Lastly, I'll say, I probably should have said this at the beginning of the video, but this video is not affiliated in any way with any of these solutions. It is not being sponsored by any of these solutions. These are solutions that I just happen to have found that work fairly well together to produce a hobby short film. There are probably many other solutions that could have been used in a similar manner, but this is the workflow that I happen to have used. I know these videos don't have great production quality, but they do have a lot of useful information. So please, appease the YouTube algorithm goddess by casting the subscribe spell and then blasting your eldritch blast at the like button. It'll really help me out.